Pepe is a hate symbol. Back in the October of the 2016 election, the news cycle was ablaze with a new trend. Suddenly, one of the internet's most loved memes became the subject of a huge controversy. Now, let's take a look at this. This is Pepe. What about this oddly sad and lovable frog really caused such a huge controversy? How did we get to the conclusion that this is a hate symbol? Well, there's a lot of reasons behind it. Pepe, in and of himself, is not inherently some sort of hate symbol. He was just picked up by a few people who put him next to racist content such as Nazi imagery. And after that, a few days later, the Hillary Clinton campaign website, as well as the Anti-Defamation League, picked up on this and declared Pepe the hate symbol of the month. And after that, the internet was ablaze with him. So now we have Pepe, forever being the subject of the controversy. Even today, people still use Pepe in many ways. But what caused the huge complex reaction to get here? How did such a small, isolated incident become national news? And to get to that, let's go back a few thousand years. So, humans have always existed in various levels of organization. The most basic one is commonly referred to as the tribe. And after a bit of time, the tribe started to get a little bit more sophisticated and started to interact with each other more. Small villages started to form. People were discovering what it was to use agriculture. And after small villages formed, small kingdoms started to appear after that. And when those small kingdoms formed, you get small empires. And it just keeps going and going. And the time between each of those transitions gets faster and faster. After small empires, you get countries. Countries become international treaties, international organizations. But the most important one, at least for today's conversation, starts in the 1980s with the invention of the internet and its popularization. The internet has fundamentally changed how people interact with each other in a society. If you look to a study recently done, between 2009 and 2013, the average teenager decreased his time, or her time, socializing off the internet by 33%. No longer are humans communicating the same way that they used to. And that has had huge changes. Instead of being limited to the few people who you are born around with, your friends can come from anywhere on the globe. If you look to Facebook as a metric, there are 2 billion people with active Facebook accounts. That's 2/7 of the world's population right there. So, what are the effects of this? We know that people tend to interact with each other and choose their friends based on people with similar personalities. Now, there are some few exceptions. Generally speaking, your best friend is going to have a much larger personality difference than you and the rest of your friends. But at the end of the day, most of the time, you're spending friendships with people who are more similar to you. Why is that? Well, people who are more similar to you, it's less likely that you're going to get into conflict. It's just a simple self-sorting process. Over time, the people that you get into less conflict with are generally the ones who are more similar to you. Now, in a small town of a couple thousand people, you're still going to see a wide amount of variation in friend groups. But online, you're going to see much less of that. The people who choose to organize themselves into their own groups are most likely going to be very similar on a personality basis. They're probably going to share similar values, similar political beliefs, and so on. And that's why 2016 studies show that, politically speaking, people with the same political ideology tend to stay in their own online social media groups, not interacting with people of other political ideologies. And that's not just for political things. That's for everyday conversations. Things such as sharing cute dog photos, dank memes, whatever it be. People don't interact outside of these small social bubbles that they put together online. So in a strange way, if we look back to those old tribal systems, we've created the exact same thing, just in the internet. And what did we see back in those old tribal days? There was consistently warfare, some kind of demonization of the other. Whoever was in that other group was not understood. Oftentimes you didn't share the same language. And to a certain extent, that's true today. People today still are deciding if Pepe is a hate symbol, what the definition of a hate symbol is. And so depending on your political ideology, you're going to have a different vocabulary from everyone else. And so it makes conversations with them difficult. And the effects of this are huge. I'm sure all of you have seen the news reports involving Antifa riots and the Charlottesville riots. All of these things, regardless of what you think about them, we can all agree that violence has occurred there. Charlottesville, most famously, led to one death. And that's not going to slow down. The internet is only going to be more and more used. The people who showed up to those were largely composed of college-age individuals. And as the next generation of college people come into that environment, they're going to be more dependent in the internet. People who are being raised with it are just going to have that be a way of life. And so because of all of that, because they're going to be raised in this highly politicized and charged environment where they don't hear from other opinions and have difficulty comprehending and talking with other people, we're only going to see an increase in violence. And so we need to have a solution. Now, I don't claim to be the smartest person or to have the solution to everything. If I did, I couldn't be standing up here and giving this TED Talk. What we do know, though, is that the first thing we need to do is have a conversation. Find someone you disagree with, and instead of just blowing them off as illogical or not having enough evidence, try and talk with them, see what they think, why they think what they think. Most of the time, on social media at least, people are trapped in their own bubbles, only receiving news that has a political bias that agrees with them. So they've got this huge catalog of overwhelming evidence that demonstrates that their own inborn beliefs are true. But they're missing the rest of the story, and if you don't go out there and try to find that, who knows what you're missing out on? So that's the first thing you can do. The second thing that you might consider is holding tech giants to account. Back in 2009, Google released a statement saying that they were personalizing every single web search, trying to filter out the website results that you wouldn't personally click on. And because of this, if you search any social issue on Google, you're probably not going to see opinions that disagree with your political beliefs. So try for a second. Try and move away from Google. Heaven forbid, try Bing. Diversify your search engines, because you might see more news than you would not see otherwise. And the other thing is, and this is a second point based off of it, if you try and diversify your search engines, you're also diversifying the tech giant industry. Google currently holds around 90% of the world's searches. And as we have seen in the recent news with various scandals involving Google firing employees or underpaying certain employees based on their immutable characteristics, we can see that Google has some skeletons in its closet, and we should take that into account. So when you're making decisions today, keep those in mind. Try to have a conversation. Be a little bit more open-minded. And someday, you might even be able to chuckle at more dank memes.